Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Cultural Resets Artist Interview Series. This is Nick Lee, and
I'm Shay. Hello.
yes, and we, of course, are here again with a extremely dope artist. She is the rap queen. She is the word musician. She is a Netflix Rhythm and Flow alum. Please welcome Felisha George.
Yay. Thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. So let's
Yeah.
start off by getting to know your background and where you got your creative start. So, like, when did your journey start?
Hmm. That's a good one. I feel like my journey with hip hop started before I was even brought here in the physical space. I feel like hip hop was something that I was kind of born with. You know, my mom raps, my grandma raps, my brother raps, all my cousins rap. Like it's just in the veins. So like even when I was like 2, I was rapping. There are like videos of me rapping at like when I could barely talk, like things like that. So um but I think for a while I was very just in a space of like, oh, I've been doing this forever. Like this is not what I'm gonna do. And everybody's like, no, you need to rap for real. Like you need to put music out. And that happened for me like in college. When I was in college, I had one friend and he rapped and he was like, yo, I want to bring you to the studio. I'm like, to the stew. I've never done that before. Like that's a serious thing to do, to like go to the stew. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. He's like, no, you can. And I like went, recorded a song with him, and we like played it on the rooftop when we got back to the dorms, and everybody was like, is this you? And I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Oh,
That's me. So yeah, it definitely like became something real for me then.
Well, first of all, let's just congratulate your friend for pushing you into the studio, all right?
Hey,
'Cause if it wasn't
yes.
him, okay, we wouldn't have any of the music that you've created,
Hey,
and
maybe.
you have created some really incredible projects. Um, so I wanted to talk to you about a project that you had. I think it's a song off of your 2019 album, "Wash
Mhm.
Your Soul."
Yeah.
Um, Heavy. Really, all the songs on that album are extremely poignant, especially during the time of its release. So I wanted to talk specifically about that one. Um, why did you choose that to be the first song on that album?
the first song being Black Sheep.
Hmm.
Yeah. Who? Okay, so Black Sheep. I recorded that in 2016, I think. Um, that song has been sitting with me for some time. So I ran for office in my hometown in like 2014, 2015. And it just brought a lot of, I think, rage for me. Um, I felt like there were so many people of color in a position of power, and they weren't necessarily using it to shift or change anything whatsoever. And so I went home one day and I wrote Black Sheep. And I was like, yeah, I want to put this out eventually. But it was a very sensitive song for me. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever put this out. Like, this is kind of like, there's rage in that song for me, at least for me. When I hear it, it's like very rageful. So I was like, I don't know if I want to put this out. I kind of want to keep it for myself for some time. And then like after being on Rhythm and Flow, after like just seeing shifts in my life, I was like, oh no, I think people do need to see and hear this side of me. And just it felt so strong, and so like me just saying everything I wanted to say without caring about who cared about what. And so I was like, yeah, I want to start it off with this song because I just want to hit people out the gate. I just want to hit them out the gate with this. So I was like, this has to be the first song.
It was quite a way to open the gate, but it's almost as if, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like this is your political statement, your activism, your passion and emotions from that experience have been channeled into your music. And I think that, like, that's why we're able, before we got on this call, I feel like we were able to tell, you know a bit about yourself, because these songs, these lyrics were
Yeah.
definitely very pointed, very pointed.
Yeah.
Um, but then you also have your latest single, which is Eve's Return,
Mhm.
and I love the title in particular. I really love that title because it makes you think. You
Yeah.
know, and like, there's a lot about Jesus's return, but when you
Mhm.
talk about Eve's return and you talk about how
Okay.
flame went on Eve,
Very
you
good point.
know, Adam.
Okay. Yes.
I used to have a bumper sticker on my first car that was Eve was framed.
Wow. Yes. Yes. That is amazing. I love that. Yeah. Eve's return.
Yeah, but there was one lyric in particular that I really I don't know, I drew it out and I wanted to talk to you about it because it
Mhm.
caught my eye.
Yes.
Like, Mother Earth gave birth to my overwrapping disorder.
Mhm. Yeah.
So some of this is Eve, but is some of this you? Are you Eve?
So yeah, yeah, I am Eve in this song in general, like we as women are Eve. And I feel like um I love that whole part of the song, actually, where that bar is like my favorite part of the song as well. But I feel like for me, there were parts in my life where I would just be like rapping, like you couldn't stop me. Like my friends would be like, if I'm with new people, but my like friends are around and they're like, Felisha, rap. My friends are like, please don't ask her to do that.
Started.
She's not gonna stop. Like, please do not ask her to do that. So like, I feel like that was me just owning all the things about me, and also knowing that that part of me is also mother nature, that part of me is also how I nurture others and myself.
Mhm.
And like through that has created so much avenue for me to speak to so many different people and to just touch so many different people in so many parts of lands that I've never even seen before.
Right.
And so that song in general is just about me owning all parts of myself and like all parts of the power that comes in me being a Black woman, and like what I choose to do with that and how I choose to spread my love, how I choose to use my voice, how I choose to do it all, and just like uplifting
Mhm.
everyone around me. Yeah, through those lyrics.
So, would you say that your mission with your art is more centered on you, or is it more centered on the message that you want to deliver to other people, or is it like a combination of both?
I feel like it's a combination of both, for sure, because I feel like when I do create, I'm in a way creating for myself. Like
Mhm.
I've noticed sometimes that when I go back and listen to music, that it's helpful for me regardless of where I am, like almost as if I was talking to myself before I knew I would need the information.
Hmm.
Uh, and so the more that I create, I'm just like opening my mind more to what I may need for myself and what others may need as well, because sometimes I just feel like it's a message. Like sometimes I literally could sit with a song and nothing will come until I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And like it really takes me time to do that. It really takes me time to like figure out what I even want to put in a song. But I feel like that's because it is for people to listen to, and if they feel something from it, that's great. And I do feel like I also get that from it. So I feel like it's both. I feel like it's for me, and then it's also for everyone who listens to it.
Well, your lyrics, specifically in Eve's Return, are almost open to interpretation for uh, those who relate to Eve, or like, for me specifically, it is Women's Month, but it's women's life for us. It's every single day, and thinking about like the pretense that is there as Eve, like the actual character, the
Mhm.
actual well, character that
Yeah.
has been developed through Eve, kind of symbolizes women as the second thought, like the follow thought, like here for men, like
Hmm.
that you are brought into this world from men, and go forth. basically. So when I was listening to that song, it was definitely like a reconstruction and almost like a reclaiming.
Yeah.
And it's like you misread, like you misread,
Right.
like
Right.
I let's revisit this, like let's revisit Eve and let's see where she is now. And I'll tell you where she is right now. I mean, like,
Right. Yeah, and like what I loved the most about Eve's Return is that number one, the night that I wrote the song, I was like, my partner was in the studio, it was me and my producer, and they're like, okay, let's hear what you got. And I'm sitting with my phone, I'm like, guys, it's so bad. They're like, Felisha, let's hear it. And then like when I said it out loud, I was like, oh, this is it, because I felt like I had to like before I wrapped it, I had to kind of give them a story of like what to envision. And I was like, Eve is the tree, Eve is the roots, Eve is the land, Eve is, so that's why I say like fresh out of the gate, I watch the fruit that I ate, I keep my eyes on the prize, I root my feet in the base. Like it's like we are the tree, we are the thing, we are it, like how could we mess up what we already are?
we bring the light. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
there is a very almost instinctual relation, um, for me, and I have heard the same experience for other women, just having this earthly connection because there is a certain nurturing element of being a woman and being and knowing when you're right, the tree brought new life, it was the apples,
Yeah.
on a table of apples. But let's talk about I know I
Well,
could
I think as a guy, I think that was a dope like segue.
Right.
No, I mean because it's really really true, and like I how do I say this? I really want to focus on too like your experience as like a black woman too, and like I feel like that song is for all women as well, but like specifically for black women as well too. Like I feel like because there's been studies that have been done, like actual scholarly peer-reviewed studies that have shown the world's feelings towards
Mm-hmm.
black women, not women of color, just black women. And there seems to be a sort of disappreciation
Yeah.
of black women about the contribution that they make, not only to everyone like on the planet, but like to culture, to music, to I mean to everything. That there's the contribution to everything. So I mean, and I'm not Eve in this scenario, but like I just thought that like that's kind of where I took it. I mean that's
Yeah,
I just
for
think it's
sure. And that's the biggest part of it actually. So I was watching an interview with Rhapsody, and she was just talking about her album Eve, and she was saying that she had looked into it and that only black women have the Eve gene, like we carry the Eve gene, and that
right.
is how that's how we all exist. And so I was like, oh, every black woman got the Eve gene, huh? Heard heard you. So there, I even say that in the song Wash Your Soul on the album. I say every black woman got the Eve gene, because it's like we do. And then that also just continuing this idea of who I envision Eve to be, and the Eve within myself and the Eve within my friends, and just also talking about that. There's all black women in that video, and even doing that was amazing. Even being in that space and like what that song brought up. Like when we did that video, I asked people to come maybe like 48 hours before I even knew we were going to be shooting the video, and people came, and it was like such a beautiful and like peaceful, but a party. Like it was amazing. It was amazing, and it felt really great to just have them in that space and doing that video. It was beautiful.
have that support.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and I also wanted to ask about, your experience in the industry in particular as a black woman. I think we all can agree that hip hop as a genre has not, traditionally been kind to women. It's
Yeah.
extremely sexist, extremely biased in like the terminology that's used in the music and the way that women are sort of guarded from succeeding in the industry in that
Yeah.
particular genre. So, what has it been like for you as a black woman navigating a career in the music industry?
It's definitely been tough.
Mm.
Um, and I say this because before Rhythm and Flow, I was just exploring myself and my talents and what I wanted to do with it. I wasn't quite sure what direction I wanted to go in, what I wanted my career to look like, any
Mhm.
of that. Before being on the show, I was just kind of having a great time and performing places with my band and like, it just being this thing that I do and that I enjoy and that I love. And then after being on this show and getting a taste of the industry, I was like, disgusting. Like, disgusting. It's not really a space where I feel Black women can exist, especially Black queer women can exist wholeheartedly in the ways in which they show up. Like, and also it not be focused on their trauma. Like I feel like being in the industry, it's like, oh, well, what's your story? And I'm like, the story is me. Like, I'm here. I'm like, what do you mean? What is the story? Like,
Right.
my music speaks for itself. I am who I am. I'm not going to now make up a story for you to pitch me in some. It's just like they try so many ways to brand you. And I feel like branding is cool and all. Branding is important for sure. But it's like, you're not about to brand me.
Mhm.
I'm branding myself. I am always being expanded and growing and changing. And I am aware of that. And so that is what I'd rather go with than to have you brand me and tell me who I am when we're constantly growing. And I feel like the industry does not have space for people who think like that. There's just no space for people who are like, I'm on my own time, like I'm doing this in a way that feels great to me, that feels restful. There's also a lot of like just using and using and using the Black woman
Mhm.
until she doesn't want to do anything anymore, and then everybody's upset. And it's like she also doesn't have to give her energy in those ways. And so me realizing like I understand what I want now. I'll say the beauty in that is like being able to now understand what it is that I do want to do and how I do want to put myself out there and where I don't want to be at all. Um, but yeah, it's definitely been challenging, but also with that challenge came a lot of beauty and meeting a lot of amazing people and just being in a lot of spaces and just having way more overstanding for myself.
So it's been like a rewarding experience, but an
Yeah,
experience that's been
for
wrought
sure.
with huge challenges just because of the nature of the industry. One
Yeah.
thing that I wanted to touch on that you said, and this really reminded me of what's kind of happened with female rap recently, with like this idea that multiple female rappers can't be on top at once. Um, you talked about having people kind of brand you and like look at you in a certain sort of way and like decide what to do with you and like when you should be giving your all to them and like when you should be engaged. Like that really reminds me personally of like this situation with Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
Uh, because as soon as she, took a break, like a short break, everything just went insane. People were treating her differently in the industry. People were uplifting another equally as talented female rapper, but pitting her against Nicki Minaj and, finding ways to kind of cause this sort of war to create like some sort of branding opportunity.
Yeah.
So, like, I just wanted to draw some parallel between that because I thought that that was interesting that you said that. And what are your thoughts on that, by the way?
Yeah. I feel like especially in hip hop, which is so just ridiculous to me. But in hip hop, it's just like very misogynistic, even so much so where people will try to pit women against each other, even for their appearance. I remember when that whole entire situation was happening, I had gotten to kind of like a debate with someone who was upset that I was like, yo, I love both of them. I love Cardi and I love Nicki. And people are like, oh, but you wear hat wraps and you do this. I'm like, that, but I still twerk. I'm still out here. Okay. Like, this has nothing to do with anything. Like, they try any way, shape, or form to pit people against each other. And like, I feel like I understand that it probably is also hard for them to not entertain it. There isn't enough voice that is opposing to that they probably have with them. So it's probably also easy to do that, and to get women to argue in those ways, and to get people to, trash talk people, that it's not even that deep. This doesn't happen to men who are dropping ridiculous music and saying ridiculous things and no one talks about it. Like, they're actually always uplifted for their music, even when I'm listening and I'm like, did they really just say that? Like, but there's this huge scope, like this huge lens on Black women in the industry. And it's like, I don't understand it. I really don't. The more I'm in it, I'm just like, y'all are weird. This is weird. Weird.
Oh.
Yeah. Especially if you don't like subscribe to that.
Right.
But I think it's interesting. I was just thinking, it is frustrating when you're branded by others, but branding is important. I mean, it's important to get your name out there and be able to represent yourself like that. But I think that there's an opportunity with branding for the creative to really own their space and their representation, because it's an extension of creativity. Branding is how your Instagram looks, and like what colors it is that you are associated with, or like, if there's a certain gimmick or something that you really associate with. So it would be interesting if branding was, and it starts with the artist, but then, like you said, they pick one thing and they're just like, okay, how do we like expand this one part that we think
Right.
is a really interesting part of your story? But instead, like, rewind a little bit and let the creative have that base and that control of how they appear, because it's not, it's important how other people perceive you, but it's even more important on what's you're putting out there to be.
Right.
And if it's not you, how are, like those of us scrolling through Instagram, how are we supposed to know the difference?
Right.
Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's just like, you're trying to tell me something.
Right.
But do you feel like like, as you have developed as an artist, how have you kind of like maintained your brand, or like, do you see yourself having control of that?
Yeah, I feel like in terms of my brand, I'm just taking the route of being very honest. It's always changing. I'm always changing, and I'm, working on going with that, because I think sometimes, or what was happening for me, especially after shooting the show and feeling like, oh, okay, now I need to buckle down and get my brand together and do all this. It had me so focused on who it was that I wanted people to see, so much, way more than who I wanted to be. It's like I got so caught up in creating this image, and I realized, like, after some time, I was like, I don't, that's not what I want to do, because it then stops me from creating. It stops me from feeling like my full self. It makes me feel like I have to continue to show up for, this thing I'm creating. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just be honest with people. I'm gonna let people know where I'm at. I'm gonna drop music, authentically when I feel like, I have something that I want to put out that I feel good about. Yeah, so like, in terms of branding, I've just been going with it and going with the punches and going with how I feel also, because sometimes I don't feel like making music. And, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really doing that right now, but when I get back to it, you'll know, so like I've just been being really honest.
Yeah, sounds like you're letting it grow naturally. Like
Yeah.
you're following, the pole, but letting yourself have that break. And I think that in particular makes you a cultural resetter. It's important to know to hustle, but it's also important to know like when you're not doing it for yourself anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you've kind of like separated yourself from the art, if it becomes a product or something, like
Yeah.
and feel that pressure of needing to show up with something to sell every time. It's much more natural and in your creative space then.
And
Yeah.
even in the long run, too, on the marketing side of things, it allows you to build a following who really understands who you are, who doesn't have those unrealistic expectations that they have been taught to impose upon artists,
Right.
specifically female artists. You grow a fan base who knows who you are, who knows what to expect from you, and who appreciates you being honest and real.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So, no, I
there
think
are
that's the way of the
definitely
future.
groups that don't release albums for like they take like 7 to 10 year gaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Like,
okay.
Yeah.
but
It is
their
okay.
fans expect that. It just builds hype.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Lord is a good example of that too, more
An
recently.
amazing one, an amazing example of it. Okay. One album and we're all like, we're still locked in.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like I'm still waiting for a new Lord album. And I know whenever she drops, it's gonna be the best work because she's taken so many years to make it.
yeah.
Yep.
And, you have the last album for so long to resonate with and to like re-listen to and listen to again and form memories with and almost like grow attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rihanna, another
Yeah.
example.
Okay.
Yeah. Anti, she said, okay, this is a great project that means a lot to me, but you know what? I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna go out and pursue some of these other ventures and
Yep.
use some of the other skills and some of the other characteristics that make me me.
Yep.
And you did it unapologetically, even though we were all in the Shade Room's comments going like, "Hey, drop the album, please." Like we need
Okay.
it, we want it, but like it's okay. We're coming to terms with the fact that she doesn't have to put out albums back to back to back because that's what she was known for, right? Put
Yeah.
albums back to back to back to back to back, era after era after era, and they were dope. But we're learning to sort of respect the
Mm.
fact that she's tired of that for now, and that's okay. And we're
Yep.
gonna have to be okay with it too. So
Yep.
I'm happy that you are, working within hip hop to sort of make that more of a norm as well, because that definitely needs to be a norm for sure.
Thank you.
I'm curious if you have other passions, like, when you do need to step back, what do you do?
So I'm also a teacher.
Hey, nice.
Um, I'm a teacher.
What do you
So
teach?
I teach hip hop, of course. I teach hip hop, I teach songwriting and storytelling and performance. I teach middle schoolers and high schoolers. And that for me, like if that was all I did for the rest of my life, I'd be so fulfilled. Like I feel like in that space is where I thrive the most. I'm just always learning. They're always teaching me, like I'm in there teaching them, but they're really in there teaching me. And like I get to meet all these amazing young people who are exploring themselves and trying to figure out, what their voice sounds like and what to do with it. And I'm just thankful to be, in that position, especially with the climate we're in right now. Like
Hmm.
spending time with kids right now has been, even though it's virtually, has been so rewarding. And, for me, it feels better than recording any song or like doing any show. It feels so much more important to be virtual with like 5 kids and they're just in there, expressing to me what their experience is and just being privy to that information and being a part of, this time in their lives as well. And just knowing that that's extremely important, especially with Black children, just them having someone in close proximity who is open to listening and to trying to understand and to creating safe space for them. So that is like, I love kids. I love kids.
I love that you're a mentor too, because we were just having this discussion, Shay, with Nyambi Ra, who was another artist that was in our artist interview series, and she was talking about the importance of having Black mentorship, specifically creatively, for young Black creatives. Um,
Yeah.
because at least in her experience, she was talking about how like she was coming up through college and she had peers, and they were in theater, but like you could tell that like they didn't have any Black mentorship just because like I mean, the work was still good. Everything that they were doing was good, but like it was grating, you know? It's like if you don't have that guidance in like this sort of industry, in any creative industry, or just creatively in general, like it can get really, really grating because you don't really always have that sort of direction. So, like for me, like hearing the fact that you're a mentor for Black creatives is really, that's really cool. And it's really needed too. And I'm happy that you're a teacher and you're walking them through that process.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. They inspire me so much. I'd be like, yo, y'all are on a whole different level. Like, hey, y'all are famous. Y'all are they're everything. They're everything. So yeah.
Kids' minds is, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I know we were all kids once and we probably had minds like that as well, but being able to be an adult now and, I try to maintain my childlike sense of curiosity and humor, but I think that being able to, like, look back and actually listen to how kids react and respond to the world around them and like what information it is that they process and how they process it. I
Yeah.
mean, that must be, not only are you inspiring them, but I can tell that they inspire you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, I guess before we break into our last two questions too, I wanted to ask one more question.
Mhm.
Um, what was it like for you post Rhythm and Flow? What do you feel like ultimately, after your experience on the show, what did you take from that that you feel like you can use in your artistry or you feel like will apply to the rest of your life?
Or
Yeah.
what did you leave behind? I don't know.
Mm,
Just throwing that out there.
That's good. Yeah.
like that. Wow. So after Rhythm and Flow, that was a extremely hard time for me. Like I think I'm still processing that experience. It was very out of body.
Mm.
For me, it felt like I was in the passenger seat of my own life. um, and the how can I say this? It was challenging
Mm.
to exist in that space as my full self. Like I found a lot of challenges just trying to be me fully. I felt like there was so much weird energy towards me in that space, and I couldn't like quite figure it out. Like kind of like what we were talking about earlier with branding. Um, I called myself Queen once, and then everybody was like, Queen, 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 Queen. I'm like, Felisha. That's my name too. We can always use that, because
Yeah.
I just feel like it put me in such a position that I was not looking, like that's not what my intentions were. Like yes, I do believe that about myself. Yes, I do call myself the rap queen, the head rap queen, the queen that's always pulling up, with the fits, that's me. But like also my rap name is Felisha George, and like I expect to be called that in this space as well, because they were like, oh, you should change your name to Queen. Like all the producers like, you should change your name to Queen. You should change. Cardi really likes Queen. Like you should change it to Queen. I'm like, my name's Felisha. I'm cool with that. I'm sticking with it.
Without
Yeah.
that.
Like I liked it. I liked it. I loved that everyone called me Queen on set. Like even in the morning when I was coming down, they're like, Queen, are you good? Do you need anything? I'm like, no, I'm fine. That for me was okay. It was like, okay, yes, I'm here for it. It
Right.
also created just a different, I think, dynamic for me than some other people, just because people were like, oh, let me, because of the way they saw me, they were just like, let me be really nice and let me make sure she has everything she needs and like things like that. So that was cool. But it was also just like, I just felt very trapped.
Mm.
I felt like even the beats that were used, like that's not my style, not really my, what I feel comfortable creating on. So I just felt very out of body. And I think when I left there, it definitely killed off some things in me that needed to go. It definitely allowed me to be with myself in a different way as well, because I feel like after that experience, I kind of took space from people. I kind of, stayed with myself. I was making music, but I was just like studio home, studio home, studio home. But I think I really needed that space, and I think I really needed that experience, even with, the ways that I didn't like the way certain things were done. I didn't like the way certain things looked, and even them trying to brand me in their own way was like, pushing it, y'all are pushing it. So when I got home, it was just, I really had to like reel it in. I had to be like, okay, sis, what is it that you really want? Because we got to figure it out, because that wasn't it. Like, that definitely wasn't it. Mainstream is not for me. Don't want to see it. Don't want nothing to do with it. Catch me in somebody's community building, doing a performance, because the mainstream, it's just, nope, not for me whatsoever. And I think me learning that killed off some expectations that I did have for what my career would look like. And so when that happened, it definitely took time for me to just rebuild myself. There was like a lot of negative self-talk I was experiencing after that show. And just like, there was a point where I was like, yeah, I'm done rapping, closing it up, I'm good. And like, even to going outside and people being like, oh my God, that's the queen from the show. And I'm like, wait, is this is really happening? Okay. And like, not even being able to go outside sometimes, because I'm just like, I don't want to take a picture with nobody. I don't want to talk to anyone today, actually. And I don't want to fake like I do, because I'm also too nice to be like, sorry, I don't want to, like, I'm just way too nice for that. So knowing myself, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I can't go outside today. And just like having to experience those things was very just anxiety driven. And I was just like, yeah, too many people asking me when I'm dropping something, it was just a lot of energy from people all over, people I've never met before, people on Instagram, people on Facebook. There's like comments on my pictures that like now I'm trying to delete, because I'm like, people are also crazy. And people say, like, I had Trump supporters message. I'm like, what? How? So yeah, it was weird time. But I think what I took from that whole entire experience is, for one, me and London became extremely close. In during the time of filming, and also to this day, that's like my best friend. We talk every day, and I know a part of me being there was to create that that hip hop sisterhood, that rap sisterhood. I never saw myself having that, and like, now that I have that, it's unmatched. Like, having me and her in a room is too much. Don't do it to yourself. We're going in, like, but it's so beautiful having that connection with someone, and then also it being rooted in such an experience that was like earth shaking for both of us, completely earth shaking. And just to be able to support her through the rest of her journey on the show was so rewarding for me. I was like, nah, we're gonna get this, because you finna win. And even if you don't win, you won. And even if I didn't win, we both won, because we both out here, and we are two Black women, two Black queer women at that. And she's queer. I was like, this really my sister. Okay, the universe blessed us because we out here. And like, just being able to have that, I think, has just watered so many parts of my life garden, which I'm super thankful for. And then I think another part of me being there was also to understand my own worth, and to understand what speaking up for myself looks like, to understand that, I am in the driver's seat. Like, I am doing these great things. I did get a wonderful opportunity for myself. I did do that. And so just also being able to be like, yes, Felisha, you're doing great. this is what you should be doing and you're doing it, be proud of yourself. Like, you know, you created all of these opportunities for yourself and you did it, and that's all that really matters. So I think having that really allowed me to see just my power and just within myself.
You have this incredible level of self-awareness and just positive energy that I think is just so needed in the music industry in particular. And I don't know, I really feel kind of just blessed just to have had this conversation with you. Um,
Thank you.
so I really appreciated this talk. So I guess to close things out, I just wanted to ask, what advice would you say you have for any young creatives that are looking to forge their way in the industry, be they producers or engineers or artists? What would you say to them?
um I would tell them to go for every single thing that they want because it's so attainable. And I think for me, like, I'm still learning that. I'm still learning the Felisha, just do the things that come into your mind. Like all those ideas you have, don't sit on them. Like try to figure out how you can put those things out and how you can move forward with the ideas that you have. Just go, even if they're wild, even if you don't know how you're gonna see it through, write it down, draw it, try to see how you can bring that thing to life. Because I feel like in our minds as artists, our minds are so brilliant and they're so special and they carry and they hold so many gems that are necessary for us and the people around us. So I would just say, don't be afraid to go for it. Don't let anybody stop you out of doing the things that you want to do. Be very, very, very soft with yourself and know that you are going to grow, you're going to shift, you're going to change, and that's only going to bring more beautiful things to your art. So be allowing of who you are, because that'll really be helpful in just being your full self as you do create. So yeah, that's a lot of things I would tell them, but that's what I would say.
Your students
No.
are lucky. Um, but I have the honor of asking the last question, which, if you don't have an answer to, is also totally acceptable. But
Yeah.
do you have anything coming up that you would like to um, share with us and our followers?
Yes. So I'm actually in this space of just creating when I feel like it.
Hmm.
And so I've been doing this I guess series called The Golden Hour. And it's really just 1 minute short songs with a video. And I write them in my golden hour, which is like the hour where I'm like, "Ooh, I got it." And then I go and I record it. And so it almost sounds like just a bunch of my thoughts in rap form. And I'm doing it with my partner. She's a dancer. And so she's dancing in all of the videos. And yeah, we'll be like putting once a month, a video will come out with a song. And we've done one so far. It's called Ways. It's out on my Instagram. And yeah, it's been really dope creating those because it's just, whenever I feel like it and it's not too much pressure, I'm like, oh, I love this. And then we go out, we get footage, and we just put together magic, honestly. So
Your partner
that's what we've
dance.
been working on.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. I can't wait to see more.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
So, everyone, if you haven't, please follow Felisha George on Instagram, and follow her on all social platforms because she's going to be dropping a whole bunch of heat per usual, but when she wants to. When
Yes. Period.
period. All right. Well, this has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. I hope everybody who's watched this has really learned a lot about the industry and who they want to kind of be as creatives. Um, and please join us next week for another video, another episode of the Cultural Resets Artist Interview Series.
Make sure to follow and subscribe.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Bye.
See y'all.